Greetings and salutations, this is Thumbs United. This is our 5th Let's Play of Deadpool. It's also the last episode of Deadpool. So, I think technically it's like 2 levels, but the last level is extremely, not only, it's not, well, there are definitely parts that are difficult, but the last level is like, you'll probably break your controller in frustration because it's just like there are a lot of boss battles, and it's like every boss you ever fought in Deadpool, there's like 5 of them that you have to beat all at once. And it's like, I don't understand why they put it in, because I mean, they might have done it for time, because the last level takes maybe 4 or 5 times longer than any other level in Deadpool. It's just ridiculously hard even on easy. And in fact, the first time I played through Deadpool, I got to the last level, and I didn't realize that it was the last level, but I got there and it's just like, I'm done. Didn't finish the game for about 5 months, and then I came back and it's like, I'm just gonna beat this level, and then it was the end. And I was like, seriously? I gave up at the end of the game? So that was, I mean, that's how annoying the last level was. It actually made the game seem a lot worse. But everything else in the game is fun, except for that one sewer level that I did last episode. That part's not so fun, but everything else is pretty good. And I don't think Deadpool is available for backwards compatibility on the Xbox One. I checked most of my games, and it just seems like I made the wrong decision in video games, because most of them are not backwards compatible. So like, seriously, I was all excited when they announced backwards compatibility, and then none of them have it. But Halo Reach does, and so I'm happy about that. So the other thing I wanted to start off with is I have to make a retraction. So last time I was talking about how Halo is basically the same game over and over again, and that it starts out with you doing a bunch of stuff, setting things in motion, and just exploring. And then as you're exploring, you're like trying to turn on everything, and then it turns out you turned on all the wrong stuff, and it all ends up trying to destroy the universe, and it's like all your fault. That part's true, but I said that Halo 2 didn't really follow that model. And I was thinking about it, and it's like, actually Halo 2 did follow that model, because there was that whole part with Gravemind where Gravemind starts giving you things to do, and he's like, oh, I'm going to help Gravemind, blah, 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 blah. And then it turns out, it's not so good for you, and Gravemind starts to rebuild himself on High Charity. So that was like, it is the same game as everything else. And then I was thinking about Halo 3, and they did it again, where you have a truce with the Flood towards the end. And it's like, oh, see, how many fake truths can you have? I do not like these characters. They're so obnoxious to beat. I'm trying to trap them in the... It's not very nice. So, my new retraction was that, I was wrong, and that Halo 2 actually did follow that model. Over the holiday weekend, we have this town, and when it was first created, like way back, it was called New Germany, but now it's called something else. And it's because like a lot of German settlers came and created the town. And so it's kind of cool, because all the architecture, it looks, it's like the older German buildings and everything, but we went there because there was supposed to be a dog show, and the whole day I just had thing after thing to do, and then nobody else in my family was ready to go. So by the time we're ready to go, we leave, and then like there's only one more activity, and it's like, but the town is like 40 miles away. Not 40 miles, 40 minutes away. And so we're driving there, and there's like, oh, we missed the activity. And so the last dog show was this wiener dog race, dash hound race. And so we were like really excited for that, and it was like, we missed it. So we get there, and all the dogs are like walking away from the campground where the show was at, and it's like, well, I guess we missed it. So we went in shopping a little bit, and then we found this place, and there was a Cherry Republic. And for those of you that don't know what Cherry Republic is, it's this store where like everything is made out of cherries. They have cherry barbecue sauce, they have cherry candy, they have cherry chocolates, they have cherry wine, and they have really good cherry sodas. But it's mostly a northern Michigan thing. So you have to drive like 5 hours up north. It's not in the upper peninsula, but it's on the tip of the lower peninsula. And so, anyway, there was one there. I was like, oh, that's cool. The city it's in is in Frankenmuth, and so I was like, I never knew that there was one this close, because there's another one that's in Ann Arbor, but that's an hour away from me, and so I don't really go to that one, and it's a much smaller Cherry Republic, so it doesn't have everything. But this was like a big size store, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is incredible. So if you do travel around Michigan, Cherry Republic is definitely a place you should go. You can actually get like boxes and have them sent to people for the holidays. And they get like gift bags of chocolate and everything. But they also have like cherry salsa, which you think would be sweet. And it's a little sweet, but it's also spicy. And they have like cherry Tabasco, everything. And they make it all themselves, and it's all like organic cherries. And so I was like, I'm taking more photos recently, more photos than videos, but I'm also doing it because I'm animating photos more, and the quality of just photos is a lot better than the video. Mainly because like a lot of times it's handheld, I don't have time to set up the tripod, and just with the photo it's high quality. It's one high quality frame that is easier to animate, and I can show more of exactly what I want. But so I took some 3D photos just throughout the town, and they came out alright. But I haven't animated it yet, but I'm like gonna get to it. And then I was telling the story before, but I've been like gardening like crazy. And so it's just funny because the more I garden, it's like the longer I can garden the next day. So it's like I'll garden for 2 hours one day, and then it's like the next day it's like, oh, I can go for 4 hours. My endurance level is getting higher. And the next day it's like, oh, I can do 6 hours. But we got this weed whacker from the store. I told this story before, I'll just repeat it again. And we were looking to buy a weed whacker, and like we'd rent them from Home Depot for one day, and a full day rental is like $45. And so then they were like, and then we were looking at the ones at Home Depot, and they're selling them for like $400 and $500. And the ones we were looking at were not the ones that take the oil mixture that you have to buy. They take, just a gasoline. So that was the big point. And so we got this like junk mail for the store, and we shop there all the time, but they were like, oh, one day only we're gonna have the sale of this weed whacker. And I was like, my mom was like, okay, let's go get it. And so it was on sale for $150, and it took gas. I mean, it takes a slight oil mixture, but it's an oil mixture. They give you a little thing that you put in, and it's a 30-to-1 ratio, so it's not that bad. It's easy to mix. So it's like 30 parts gasoline to 1 part oil. And so it was like, that's the deal. So we got it, and the first day I tried starting it, and I kid you not, on the pull cord, I got 2 blisters on the side of my finger. Like, that's how much I had to pull it to start it. And so the next day it was like I was getting superstitious because I was like, how do you start it? It didn't matter like what order. Like, I read the instructions. It's like, this is how you start it. And normally I don't have a problem with the pull start, but this one is just like, no wonder this weed whacker was 150. You can never get it to start, but it's already paid for itself because we used it 5 or 6 times. And so if we had rented from Home Depot, I mean, that's already like 50 times 4. That's like $200. So we're already saving money with it. So that's nice. And I've also figured out like how you start it. And so it floods, the engine floods kind of easily. So what you have to do is for the first time you pull it, you have the choke open, but then you close it. And then you have to have the throttle going completely open. And then that's how you can start it. And then once it's started, you have to quickly open up the choke to get the gas flow going. And most of the time it will just stay started, but sometimes it will flood again. And so you have to start it a couple times with the choke closed and then open it for like 1 pull and then close the choke and blah, blah, blah. And you might be wondering like why you can't prime it. And for some reason, when you prime this one, it just won't start. And like the instructions say that you're supposed to push the prime button like 7 to 10 times, and it's like, I know that's not right. And so like I've tried it a couple times, 7 to 10 times, and it just seems to flood the engine. So I don't even worry about the prime. The way I described it just kind of bypasses it. But once it's running, it works well. You just have to keep the throttle up, because if it idles for too long, it turns off and says like, ugh. And I've been doing a lot of weed whacking. It makes a huge difference with our yard. Our yard, we have over 2 acres. And so it's, before machinery, it was really hard to take care of because I'd have to weed everything by hand and then chop down trees. Like, they're not trees, they're like really strong overgrown bushes. And so I had a ratchet clippers. And so it was always painful every year. And where I live in Michigan, it rains all the time. So like everything grows back really fast. Like I have to mow the lawn every week, and sometimes sooner than a week. It's like every 5 days. Just gonna jump around till my health regens. Supposedly you can't get damaged while you're... So before the next topic, I just want to remind everyone that these Let's Plays go live, these live streams go live to Patreon first, usually a month in advance of coming to Twitch. And we stream every Tuesday, starting at 7 p.m. We do a rerun first, the previous Let's Play, and then we do the new Let's Play right after that. That way, if you missed last week's, because we don't archive on Twitch, you can catch it at 7 p.m. every Tuesday. And then, once the once the Let's Play series finishes on Twitch, then it will slowly get released on YouTube. So YouTube's the last, and it usually comes out like 1 to 2 months after Patreon. So if you sign up for the $2 or more level, actually get real early access.
Purple lane, buddy. Seated and comfy. Advanced propulsion systems online. Of course, we need fuel. Once this baby hits 69.9 miles per hour.
This next part's pretty funny. Loading, loading, loading.
Oh my God, what's that over there?
What were you doing over there?
Just a little surprise for our player.
I didn't sign up for this.
So this is the next level that's like really obnoxious. It's just boss battle after boss battle. And it's like, stop, please. Too many bosses.
You see the look? You see the look on the ex-chumps' faces?
Maybe we should wait for them?
What? No way. We're taking Sinister down ourselves. This is our game.
So, I saw earlier that Marvel stock is falling. By the time this comes out, it happened a long time ago, but
Technology is your friend. Well, not your friend.
I don't know. I kind of saw it coming. I mean, they're having their movies are like okay, and some of them are good, but a lot of the origin stories with new characters is just like it's the same thing, copy and pasted. What I really liked is the Paramount Marvel with the X-Men, and I really liked how they rebooted it with Future Past. I thought Apocalypse was okay. I didn't realize it, but a lot of people didn't like Apocalypse, and I was like, I thought it was pretty good. But there were times when I just got up from the theater and went to the restroom, so maybe I missed all the bad parts. And for some reason, I've like developed a mental block towards First Class. I know I've seen it, but I can't remember anything that happened in it. And I talked to my cousin, and she's like, "Oh, First Class was so good," and it's like I don't remember anything that happened in it. Nothing. So I've already kind of started skipping some Marvel movies. Like I was like, I don't need to see Ant-Man. No, thank you. Deadpool was good, but again, that was Paramount. And I do like Guardians of the Galaxy. That one's good. But Age of Ultron. This is my problem: is that they make really good trailers, but the movie's just like not that great. But there was something. Oh, what was it? Oh, I really didn't like this. This is changing, but I really didn't like Rogue One. I mean, there were things in it that were good, and I'll admit that. But the first 40 minutes were some of the worst storytelling, and it was like watching a really bad student film in the first 40 minutes of the movie. And I just like, oh my goodness! But then the rest of the movie was actually good. But it's like, I can't forgive the first 40 minutes, especially when it's like Disney and Lucasfilm. It's like, you guys should know better. But, oh, and so the thing that I hated about Rogue One was, and everyone was like high-fiving, like, oh yeah, this is a great feature. But none of the scenes that were in the trailers actually happened the way they led you to believe in the trailers. Like, there were straight up scenes that didn't even exist in the movie that were in the trailers. And it's like, the movie in the trailers was actually, I thought, a lot better than the actual movie that came out. And that's my problem with kind of this current Star Wars, is that the trailers look really good, but not sure if I'm a fan of them. I mean, episode 7's grown on me, but my first thought after seeing 7 was like, I'm no longer a Star Wars fan. And like, I'm a person who will watch the prequels. I'll watch the originals. And I used to watch the originals like once a week when I was in high school, but I just felt like episode 7, there was no story to it. And the only story they alluded to was like, oh, at the end. It was all like wink, wink, nod, nod. But I just felt like it was a running movie. Like, all you did was watch these characters run from place to place, and they never really planned anything. And there was just not much story in episode 7. It just pretty much asked a lot of questions about the characters, and you never really got an answer, because it was like, okay, tune in next time for episode 8. So as I'm recording this, I'm actually taking a break from something else. But for the Flotations website, I'm going to start not only releasing things in 4K, but I'm going to start releasing the 3D photos. So I've taken like a lot of 3D photos from different places. And so before, like, I didn't think I'd work with the 3D photos so much, because I shot mostly HD, but now the photos are like 11 megapixels, so I can release the animated versions in 4K now. And I was like, that's funny. It actually paid off taking the photos. It was more...
Where is it? Your big, stupid question. There it is. Right
And
near
so...
Magneto's old city.
Actually, the photos were more future-proof than the video.
Such a squad.
But so the next segment, I'm like 70% of the way done animating it. Then I have to like submit it to render, which takes a long time. But so that's going on. And then the other thing I discovered is I have one of those, it's kind of a cheapy VR headsets. It's the one you put your cell phone in and then it straps to your neck. Mine's like, it's a little bit more fancier where it's really comfortable. It has a nice cushion around your face, but you still end up looking like a raccoon because it pushes against your face, so you get like a little line around it. but it's very comfortable. And so there's a couple of good apps. I can tell you one of the apps I use now, and this is for the iPhone. I think the app's available on Android, but I mean, and there's a free version of the app, but it plays advertisement every like 5 minutes of use. So you get the free one. It's only like $1.99, but it's just called VR Player. And so it's VR Player, and it's the one I have is 3.1.7, and it's really nice because you can load 360 and 3D videos onto it. So not only videos that are shot in 360, but in 360 3D. And so those are really nice. Because you look around and you have the depth of field and everything, and you can see how far everything is. And it's creepy because the first couple of times I do it, I'll like go into the VR mode for like maybe 20 minutes or half hour, and then I take it off, and it's like you feel slightly depressed because it's like, oh, I was in a totally different world. And then you take them off, and it's like nighttime, and you're in your room, nobody's around. And it's like, oh, that's depressing. But it's pretty nice. But it does take up a lot of battery. And so what I actually do is for when I had my car before it got smashed by a tree, I had this really long cable that I could connect to the audio system. It's just USB. But it was like a 10-foot cable, and so what I do is I actually, if I'm doing the VR like laying down or standing up, I can connect the phone directly into the wall outlet, and so I'll actually be recharging while I'm doing the VR. But I feel like 40 minutes of VR, because it's a lot of processing the phone has to do, will take your battery down to like 20% after being full. And this is on the iPhone 6 Plus. So even with the bigger battery of the 6 Plus, it's pretty draining. But then, especially with the VR player, it can actually play videos that are in 3D. And what's nice is it will take the side-by-side 3D. I think it will do like full 1080p 3D too, where it's the two streams. It will take 3D, and then you can say, okay, put it in headset mode, and it will put the left eye in the left eye, and it will create the proper ratio. And so it's like sitting there watching a perfect 3D movie in 3D, where it's like immersive. There's no like artifacting. You don't have to worry about which way you turn your head, and it's like really bright. So it looks really high quality, even though the screen's like 1080p and each eye only gets about standard definition. It just looks really good. And the depth is incredible. But it looks natural too, which is nice. And so I think 3D and VR and 3D is really cool, but it has this other feature where it will actually crop in. And so with VR, the aspect ratio is really a square. And so when you watch HD content, there's quite a bit of letterboxing to fit it inside. And so what it will actually do is it will crop the video, and it will crop it in. Anyway, so what it does is, and then it crops it in. And so it's nice because then with the 3D movies that are not in VR, it will actually make it VR a little bit, where if you turn your head left to right, it will be full screen in the VR, but then you can turn to the left and turn to the right, and it will just show you like the left side of the image or the right side, and it's still in 3D. And because it's magnified, the 3D is a little better, a little less non-intrusive. And so I really enjoy doing that. So I'm gonna, in the future, I'm gonna release some more videos that are able to be put in VR headsets. Yeah, VR player, and it's pretty good because you can connect the iPhone to like your computer, and then you can upload VR that way, VR videos and 3D videos, or you can just go to YouTube, and that one's pretty nice. But the problem is, it only does standard definition on YouTube, and it's not the app's fault. It's because it uses the mobile, web browser, and so mobile web browsers only support the standard definition YouTube videos. So that part's annoying. But you can just open the link in the into the app. It'll take you to the YouTube page, the YouTube video page, and then you play it, and then you can play it in VR. And so it's like those old Sharper Image magazines where they're like, oh, you can watch videos with the 80-foot screen on the airplane with your own personal viewer. And so it's exactly like that, where it's like watching a 100-inch screen projection. But the main reason why, like, sometimes I'll watch videos in that way is because sometimes, like, especially with the long videos, I don't want to hold my phone up there for that long. So if I'm like watching a video before I go to sleep and in bed, I just put on the VR headset, and and then I could be curled up in a ball into the blankets or whatever, and just not have to hold up the phone anymore. So it gives you it frees up your hands. You just like relax.
You're gonna want to have the oxygen clip. Roll for melee damage.
Yeah, I think I played maybe 15 minutes of that first level for this Let's Play, and the entire rest of this is just going to be this level. It's not just this area, the area is actually bigger, but it's a really long level. But anyway, so I'm finally, for a while, I've been for the flotation videos, especially, I've been using iMovie, and it was just because I wanted to get those out quickly, and I wasn't ready to start doing 4K yet, and so it's like iMovie's enough, especially because they have such a good, they call it the Ken's burn transition, where it does the zooming in and out of the photograph. But my problem with iMovie is that there's this bug in it where, for some strange reason, it can't accept really high megapixel images, and you can edit with them, but as soon as you export it, it's
He's going to Tummy Tucky again.
so when you export it, it would come out like all artifacty and just static. And so I eventually figured out the bug, and it was like, oh, the images are too high megapixels, so you have to down-res the images to like 2000 by 3000, and depending, that's for a 2x3 photo. And it can like accept a little higher than that, but not much. And I was like, seriously? So that was one of the reasons why I decided to move away from iMovie, so I can use like 50 megapixels and 18 megapixel images, and it will show up. And especially in 4K, it will be almost, at native resolution throughout the full zoom of the photo. But before, I really disliked iMovie, especially when they changed everything. Because in elementary school and high school, I used iMovie like crazy. So when they switched the layout and everything, they're like, this is better. It's like, no, it's not. I hated their new system for selecting videos and clips. And I talked to several editors, and they're like, oh yeah, we hate it too. It's super imprecise and blah, blah, blah. But then they added their trailer feature, where it's like, you just select a couple of clips, and you can do what they say, where it has a storyboard, and then it's like, okay, you want a wide angle, you want a close up, you want landscape here. If you follow that, it makes the trailers pretty good. And I was like, oh, this is funny. So iMovie got me that way, and then I was like, okay, I'll use it for animating some of the photos. So they got me, but anyway. So while I hated and didn't like it, I actually used Premiere, but I used Premiere Elements, and that one, it was pretty good. I used it for a lot of stuff. I used it for productions, like filming school musicals and plays and stuff, and it was really reliable. And the feature that I liked, and they don't really advertise this, but if you have, I would edit on my Mac in Premiere Elements, and then I had a Windows PC that had, and I had Premiere Pro. And you might be like, well, why don't you render and animate it in Premiere Pro? And it was just, I liked Elements a little bit better. Pro had a lot of features that I didn't need, and I didn't have Premiere Pro for the Mac. I only had it for Windows. And so what you could actually do is you could take a Premiere Elements file, and then you would open it in Premiere Pro, and all your sequences would be there and everything, and then you could just say render. So I would like spend all this time editing on the Mac, and then just put it on the Windows machine and have it render, and then I'd be working on the next project on my Mac. And so I had quite the workflow, and that actually what got me started thinking about like Engine Blue and batch rendering and all that stuff. But yeah, that's what's really nice about Premiere Elements, is that it still works in Premiere Pro, and then it works, once you open it up in Premiere Pro, you can submit it to Media Encoder, and so you can have like 1,000 encodes all happening one after the other, and not have to be in front of the computer to watch it. I mean, you still do, because sometimes they fail, and whenever they failed, it has this like sound of a sheep screaming, and it's like, oh my god, it gives me a heart attack every time, because it's usually at like 2 or 3 in the morning, and I'll be working late, and then the sheep goes off, and it scares me to death, because it's like, was that a ghost? Somebody screaming? Somebody getting killed? And it's like, oh, it's Media Encoder. It failed. And then back to the game. This is the part that I hate, is that there's no checkpoints almost. There's like one checkpoint right before the end, but it's like boss after boss after boss, and it never saves your progress. But unlike going back to video editing, I was asked by the school to do a video project, and so I was like, okay, I'll offer Blu-rays and DVDs. And so I tried to author a couple of, usually I used to use iDVD and iMovie, but then I was like, okay, I'm going to switch to Adobe. And this is right before Creative Cloud. This is the last one, which was CS6, and I still have it and occasionally use it. But so I had Encore and stuff, and I was like, okay, I'll use Encore. And it's like, you can do Blu-rays, and it was really nice because the menu system worked. You could open up the menu system directly in Photoshop, save it, and then it would automatically change in the editor for Encore and stuff, and it was really nicely integrated. But my problem was it would never finish encoding a Blu-ray. So you would sit there and there was nothing I could do to get it to work. And I tried changing the scratch disk settings, how much RAM I could use, but essentially it would sit there, and at maybe like 75% it would stop progressing and just never finish. And I would leave it for like weeks, and it was just like no progress would be made, and the program wouldn't stall. It would still be running fine. It wouldn't be like, oh, you need to force quit or this program's not responding. The program was still working. It was just taking up no CPU cycles, no RAM, and it's like, what's it waiting for? And so then I googled around, and this is like a common occurrence, and I was like, how can you ship a program that never works? Like a ton of people on the forums and everything were saying, yep, Coder never worked since like CS2. And I was like, oh, this is dreadful. So I switched mid production, and I went with Nero, and I was like, I'm gonna try this. Nero seemed like it was like a little too cheap, and I was like, this can't be good, but I'm gonna try it because a lot of people recommended it, and it was fantastic. I had no problem burning the Blu-ray, and the Blu-rays worked in everything, and you had your choice of burning your Blu-rays to be have the pirate protection or not, and so it was just really nice. And what's nice too about Nero is, well, it verifies the disc, which most of them would do, but you can create the ISO, and then later, if you like, let's say you want to make 50 Blu-rays, you just say, okay, burn 50 discs, and it will automatically eject it and say put the next one in, and then you can have it set so that once it does 50, it will shut down the computer. And so it's really easy to do, medium production, not really mass productions, but I'm sure that if you got one of those disc burning batchers, it would work with that. It's designed to work with that. And so it's really nice. It's just, and it has this thing that's called like buffer extreme or the ultimate buffer. So when it burns the disc really fast. Especially like the higher, like 25 gigabytes or 50 gigabyte Blu-rays, it will burn it in like 2 to 3 minutes, which is unusual. Usually it takes like 15 to 20 minutes. But that's because they load the disc in such a way in RAM, and it can use a lot of RAM. It will use all the RAM you have, and then it will just stream it to the disc. And their verification process is good because you can have it set to verify every disc. But the other feature of Nero that I like is their backup. So you can back up to Blu-ray or DVD, and so you can just have it say, okay, like I'll take a whole drive and say, okay, back up this entire drive, and it will tell you, okay, are you gonna be backing up to like 25 gigabyte Blu-rays? And you say yes. Or you can say, I'm gonna be backing up to DVD discs, and it will tell you ahead of time. It's like, okay, you're gonna need 47 discs. So you take the 47 discs and just one at a time it archives it. And then when you want to and then you can erase that drive. And let's say you want to put everything that was on the drive back, you just open up Nero and say, okay, you put in the first disc, and it's like, okay, this is part of a 47 disc backup. Make sure you have all 47 discs. And then it will automatically put everything back in order on the hard drive, copy it for you. So you just put in one disc after the other, and then it's like, boom, it's archived. So that part's really nice. And it was just like, Nero was the best value for value program I've ever bought. It was, when I got it, it was like, I think it was $90 because I got it on sale. But I'm definitely going to get the 2017 version because now it encodes for 4K Blu-rays. And it's just like, they're so ahead of their time. And features.
I'm sorry. Aiming for your crotch.
So I'm doing pretty good in this level. This Let's Play is at 43-minute mark, and I've been playing this level since maybe 15 minutes in, so it's been about a half hour. And there's going to be some more bosses coming later. So one of the first games I bought on the Microsoft Store for the Xbox One, I got Need for Speed Rivals and Need for Speed, and they came as a pack. And I feel like the Microsoft Store is so sneaky because I had looked at them and I was like, okay, I'm gonna buy one, and it was like $40 for Need for Speed Rivals. And I was like, oh my goodness, see, all the bosses are coming. And so,
And look at the swing on this kid. That's major league.
anyway, so Need for Speed Rivals was like $40, and then I looked at the Need for Speed, the one that looks like Need for Speed Underground, but they don't call it that, and it was also like $40. And so I kept looking around on the store, and it was like, then I found you could get it as a pack where you get both of them, and then you get extra cars unlocked for Need for Speed Rivals. So I was like, okay, and the pack cost $20, and I was like, why didn't you guys show this first? And I was like, it's kind of sneaky. They want you to buy them like more expensive, and don't tell you about the bundle first. You have to dig around in the store. So I got it that way, and I was surprised because Need for Speed Rivals is made by Criterion, and it's kind of like the Need for Speed Hot Pursuit series, where like you're on a semi-tropical island. This one is set, it looks like it's in Northern California, but they never say that. And
Obliterate this abomination!
I mean, it was a lot of fun, and it takes a little getting used to.
It's an orgy of destruction and chaos!
I'm usually good at the Need for Speed games, but for some reason it just, something about the controller sensitivity, and they don't let you change it. It's like I wanted it to be a little less sensitive, because it's really sensitive, and it's like,
This be close attack!
okay, now it's getting hard.
Oh my God, here come more.
Do not fail me!
Heads up, we're slurpy guys.
Yes, be careful. Because that was super.
But with, and so that was one of the things with Need for Speed Rivals is like, this looks like it's an Xbox 360 game, and there was a version of it that came out for the Xbox 360. Whereas like, this doesn't look graphically so much better. And so I was like kind of disappointed, but then I went into the Need for Speed game. It's just called that, but it looks like Need for Speed Underground. Like it was modeled after that, where you're in LA and it's always at night and you're street racing. But I went to that game and I was like, oh my goodness, the graphics are so much better. So there's like a wide range of like graphical fidelity with the Xbox games, but especially with Need for Speed, where I was like, I wouldn't even think, you know, this came from the same game company, because Need for Speed Rivals is maybe half the graphical fidelity of the Need for Speed game. And then it was funny because I was watching the cutscenes, and in Need for Speed, especially in Underground, the cutscenes were really good, but there weren't that many cutscenes. And so, I mean, they were like Pixar level quality. And, but really photorealistic instead of cartoony. And so, with the cutscenes in Need for Speed, I was like, this can't be real. And so I'm looking at it and I'm like, no, it's not real. And what was tricking me is that there were definitely CG elements in it. But no, they recorded it with real actors and from a camera. And then they like superimposed some CG stuff, and like your garage and everything is CG. And like green screened onto it. Not green screen, but it's like alpha overed. And so I was like, oh, I feel dumb now. But it really fits in well with the game, and especially with racing, it's just like, it just feels better. Let's see if there's any upgrades. I'm pretty upgraded out. getting those achievements.
Now, start clapping! You can do it, man! I believe in you!
What is it? I didn't know.
And so earlier in this Let's Play series, I kind of said how my projector was the hub for all my devices because it had the HDMI. Now over HDMI, I can play audio, and that would go directly into my speakers because it was just the speakers were right next to where the projector was, and so the projector would output HDMI and like the stereo headphone, and then I could connect with the headphone jack, connect direct with an RCA adapter to the surround sound system, and it was pretty complicated. But when it died, it doesn't output anything if it's not on. There's no passive like audio through. And since it won't stay on, it's like I lost the use of like all my audio devices, and I was like So earlier today, before I started working, I took an old Cat 5 cable and I like took off the heads, and then I took 3.5 millimeter to RCA output cable, and so then I pretty much just chopped it in the middle, and then just wired the network cable to the RCA outputs, and then the 35 millimeter channels I wired it so that I had essentially 100-foot long, the world's longest audio cable. And I was like, I hope this works. And so yeah, it worked. And I was like, I have been having this problem for ages. And even when the projector worked, it was like, I don't want to turn on the projector just to listen to audio, because I didn't have anything I wanted to put on this screen, but sometimes I do it anyway. And so now I have like a really long headphone cable, 100 feet. I think it's 50 feet. Yeah, it's 50 feet. And so now I can connect to the surround sound system in stereo, and the surround system automatically turns it into 5.1. So it's really like quadraphonic. And it's like, oh my goodness, how long have I been waiting for this? So I did all this before I started work, and like I said, I'm doing a lot of gardening. I do 4 to 6 hours of gardening every day, and it's starting to get to the point where it's like I finally finished 2 or 3 projects, and then it's like got to do the other ones because the plants grew in again. But I don't know, I went to do the gardening, and so I have to like cut the plants down because some of them are like really thick wood, so I have to cut them down with the ratchet clippers. And what it is it's like shears, but it has a ratchet at one end, so it's like you can gear down, and so it lets you cut really thick branches and everything pretty easily. But I guess I hurt my shoulder yesterday, and so I was doing it for like 30 minutes, and then I was just like, I can't do this anymore. My shoulder hurts too much, and I didn't want to injure it more. So I was just like, I guess I'm taking the day off, which I didn't want to do. But and then this part is horrible because if you die, it bounces you all the way back to the beginning. of the, not all the way back to the beginning, but to the back of this arena. And I don't use the guns much, but
No wonder the cops are always the best with these things. Shotguns rock.
Deadpool.
I'm pretty much showing them no mercy.
Next.
Because this game, this level can really beat you. Is this it? I think I beat it. I think that's it for the Let's Play. Oh no, there's more. No, before it ends. You can subscribe to LCD Productions on Patreon, where for $2 a month you get early access to the Flotation website animations and some blog posts, as well as early access to Thumbs United Let's Plays and Game Archive videos. And the Game Archive videos are purely gameplay, where it's like the story, the cutscene, but there's no commentary. And I am going to do kind of a feature where I'm going to release the Game Archive games first, but then I'm going to go back and add in commentary later. So there will be both if you like commentary, but if you don't like commentary, those ones will be coming up first, and they'll be coming up first to Patreon. Right now, the one that's up is Mass Effect 3. And so that's releasing twice weekly, Mondays and Fridays on Patreon. And then a month later, it will come to YouTube. And then the Flotation Season 3, the photographic animations, they're still coming out, but they're coming out to Patreon first, and they come out every Monday. So pretty much until September, Season 3 is going to continue coming out. So you can get all of that early access for $2 a month. And then in September, Live to Tape is going to start previewing things on Patreon too. So there's going to be a lot of video goodness. I'm just trying to stay alive. Run away!
Party time.
Please tell me this is the last round of Sinister. Oh, thank goodness. So thanks for joining me on this adventure. This has been Deadpool. Came out for the 360 a while ago. And I don't believe it's available on
You are repugnant. Revolting. Disgusting abomination. With no place in this world.
Well, here we are, the moment of truth. Can you believe it? You know, I wasn't sure I could do, but gotta say, you crushed it. Well, we crushed it. We make an amazing team.
Nearly brings us to tears.
We thought it'd be better for the game if we did it this way. You know, giving you glory. We did all the work.
Just push your button to execute our super awesome amazing plan.
Obscene.
Wait, that was the real Sinister, right? Seriously, no credit. We're done here. Holy shit.
It was amazing.
That was awesome!
Deadpool! Hey! So you did it, buddy. Look, I know we've had our differences, but look, I'll admit it. The game rocks. You rock, pal.
Ow.
And I hate to admit this, but we're actually not that much over budget. I didn't want to tell you that before, but now that the game's over, you know.
Add a couple of levels now.
Yeah.
Get your checkbook ready.
No, you're going over budget, damn it! You gotta stop!
This is my jam.
Okay, this has been Thumbs United. We released every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. You can get all the Let's Plays early at LCD Productions on Patreon for $2 or more. Thanks. See you next week with Heavy Rain.
That's right, biatch. Keep those guns clean.
Yeah, clean as a whistle.
In the Carib.
Crib?
It means domicile.
I don't know what that means.
Crib.
Yeah, crib. Like where we live. Who's hungry?
What the fuck just happened? Who wrote this song? We can save this ship. It's clear. Okay.